listening to Mamma Mia, whichever version, 24-bit or vinyl or whatever, I can't find any anomalies really. There's the odd thing, the odd strange thing that I wonder, ooh, was that an anomaly, was it not? So what I'll do is I'll present to you what I found, and you can make up your own mind. I'm seriously dubious about some of these things myself. Listening out of phase is where I found most of the anomalies. So here we go. When I was growing up, the only source of pop music really in the UK was Radio 1 and Top of the Pops and maybe one or two other shows, but very little else. And most of that was all in mono. So when a group that's a bit canny, like ABBA, decide, well, we'll make our records in stereo and they'll sound good in stereo, but we won't place too much that is sort of extreme left or extreme right. Most of the vocals, which is the important information, is all sort of in the centre area. So when you listen out of phase on this song, there's very little that you can hear. You can hear a guitar, which is not the lead guitar. It sort of doubles up a synthesizer or a few synthesizers maybe. You can hear drums, you can hear reverb on the vocals, very little main vocals, one or two other things. It was the Beatles producer, George Martin, who said that any information that's in the centre channel will be in mono 4 decibels louder. So there, ABBA had a fantastically easy way of making sure that their records were loud on the radio, because in mono, all their vocals, which is the important information, will be centre stage and therefore louder. At 5 seconds then, what you can hear is a burst of reverb which is coming from an amplifier that is playing the chuggy guitar, which alternates between D major and an augmented chord of D at that point. I'll just give you a quick burst on the piano, if I may. So in normal, you hear that chuggy guitar. In out of phase, you hear an amplifier which is giving you a reverb sound based on that chord pattern. At 15 seconds, I think there's an edit in the word cheat, or as in I've been cheated by you. It seems to go past just a little bit too quickly, like a little skip in that syllable cheat. Listen out for that, but feel free to disagree. At around about that point, 15 seconds, that is one of the few places where the CD mix goes into the red. So it might well be that there has been an edit here that has been covered up by quite a loud sound. I think maybe a drum thwack. As the last 3 drum beats of the verse 1 go into the first chorus, there seems to be an edit, because those last 3 drums appear to not sort of have the same tonal quality as the drums going before. In each of the verses, the first 2 lines are replied, as it were, by a synthesizer pattern. If I just hop up again to the piano, it's this one. It's that pattern, and at 1 minute 32 seconds out of phase, there are 3 stray synth notes that play the first, obviously, 3 notes of that line. They're not anywhere else out of phase, so I wonder whether or not they decided, oh, I'd rather not have that particular synth playing that pattern and cut it out, but didn't cut out enough of the first three notes. It's a bit odd, really, that they don't seem to be in any other places where that pattern's played. There's another replying guitar line which I haven't worked out on the piano, but it's an electric guitar and synthesizer phrase. Now, out of phase, you can only hear the electric guitar, which is in the background in when you're listening normally. I think it's on the left-hand side. But the final note of the electric guitar phrase is out of tune, and it seems to go a bit sharp and quite over-reverbed at that point. Right, now we're talking at the very second where the verse 2 goes into the chorus. It's the same place as in verse 1, where I thought that the three drum beats were where an edit had been made. Here I'm talking about a tiny burst of guitar that covers where the join's been made in the second verse. Now at 1:56 to about 2 minutes 3 seconds, possibly, maybe even 2 minutes 4 seconds, you can hear a very obvious guitar phrase leading you up into the chorus. But underneath that, normally, if you can just about hear it, of just one tiny little guitar chord, it's very obvious out of phase. At both these points, I think they're marimbas or xylophones or glocks, something like that. Anyway, there are little stumbles as they play my, and slight timbral changes. Either it's an edit or it's slightly iffy playing. Sorry, Benny. And also, not an anomaly, but interesting anyway, the Just How Much I Missed You line is played about 2 octaves higher on something else. It seems to disappear when you're listening normally, but if you do listen carefully, you can hear that line being played a couple of octaves higher. This record makes very heavy use of compression. Compressor is a device which raises the volume of quiet signals and lowers the volume of loud signals. Another context where it might be used is perhaps with an opera singer when she or he is about to just shriek their top notes at fortissimo or something. Then the engineer might just bring in a tiny bit of compression just to make sure that doesn't overload the tape. And Mamma Mia, as I say, you've got those great big drum beats, just one look and I can hear a bell ring. Those bits there where the drums really go for it, and even on the CD mix they don't push that into the red at all. It's far easier and more pleasant on the ear to listen to it in vinyl because you've got a lot of headroom spare. I think at 2:32 the compressors have been working too hard, in overtime if you like, because the B of buy is missing, and I think possibly the compressor came in and chopped it off. And in the next phrase, I'm never sure whether they say bye bye or my. I think it's just over compression. There's a very abrupt guitar cut-off at this point, very obvious out of phase, just as the main song finishes and you've just got that outro played by the synthesizers. That's the last Mamma Mia anomaly, but the next anomaly that I'm going to do, or the next video that I'm going to do, is based on Fernando, because I know for definite that there are some really bizarre things going on there. So I'm going to skip a few songs on the CD. I will come back to them, but I'm going to do Fernando next.